মনো চলো নিজ নিকেতনে, মনো চলো নিজ নিকেতনে। সংসার বিদেশে বিদেশীর বেশে ভ্রম কেন অকারণে।
Friends, on behalf of Advaita Ashram and on my own personal behalf, I send my heartiest greetings to all of you on this most auspicious and holy occasion of Swami Vivekananda Jayanti as per the Indian calendar. And before I start today's talk, I wish all of you to listen to this beautiful song composed by Swami Sardananji, basing upon a vision of Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna, in which he tells us that he brought this Narendranath from the Saptarshi Mandal. Basing upon the description given by Sri Ramakrishna, Swami Sardanji has composed this song. It has been sung by one of the monastics of the Ramakrishna mission. And you please listen to that song, and then I will start my talk.
স্তিমিত চিত্ত সিন্ধু ভেদি উঠিল কি জ্যোতি ঘন, কোটি সূর্য গলাইয়ে ছাঁচে ঢালা কান্তি যেন। স্তিমিত চিত্ত সিন্ধু ভেদি উঠিল কি জ্যোতি ঘন, কোটি সূর্য গলাইয়ে ছাঁচে ঢালা কান্তি যেন। মায়া খণ্ডিত অখণ্ড বারি বুঝলিলা কেবা হেন, কোটি সূর্য গলাইয়ে ছাঁচে ঢালা কান্তি যেন। উজ্জ্বল বালক বেশে অখণ্ড ঘর প্রবেশে, প্রেম ঘন বাহু পাশে কাহারে করে ধারণ। উজ্জ্বল বালক বেশে অখণ্ড ঘর প্রবেশে, প্রেম ঘন বাহু পাশে কাহারে করে ধারণ। কুঠবীর চল চলি কুঠবীর আঁখি মেলি, কুঠবীর আঁখি মেলি ছাড়ো ধ্যান চল চলি। কুঠবীর আঁখি মেলি ছাড়ো ধ্যান চল চলি, ধরণী ডুবালো বুঝি অবিদ্যা কাম কাঞ্চন, ধরণী ডুবালো বুঝি অবিদ্যা কাম কাঞ্চন, স্তিমিত চিত্ত সিন্ধু ভেদি উঠিল কি জ্যোতি ঘন, কোটি সূর্য গলাইয়ে ছাঁচে ঢালা কান্তি যেন। সুধীর ধীর পরশে যোগী চায় সহরসে, সুধীর ধীর পরশে যোগী চায় সহরসে, কণ্টকিত তনু মন নীরবে ভাসে বয়ান, সুধীর ধীর পরশে যোগী চায় সহরসে, কণ্টকিত তনু মন নীরবে ভাসে বয়ান, তারা জ্বলি ছায়া পথে স্পর্শে ধরায় চম্বিতে, তারা জ্বলি ছায়া পথে স্পর্শে ধরা আচম্বিতে, পুণ্য ভূমে উদে আজি পুণ্য নর নারায়ণ, পুণ্য ভূমে উদে আজি পুণ্য নর নারায়ণ, স্তিমিত চিত্ত সিন্ধু ভেদি উঠিল কি জ্যোতি ঘন, কোটি সূর্য গলাইয়ে ছাঁচে ঢালা কান্তি যেন, কোটি সূর্য গলাইয়ে ছাঁচে ঢালা কান্তি যেন।
Inevitable. Friends, a little about today's subject. Now, Swami Vivekananda's life and teachings is like an ocean, infinite ocean almost. And so, we have to choose some aspect to study in a lecture. And the outer part of Swami Vivekananda's life and activity, you may say, has been discussed by many speakers on this 12th of January. And I presume always that the speaker and the audience both are sadhakas. A sadhak speaking to sadhakas. That is my permanent idea. And that is why I chose this subject, Sadhak Vivekananda. And then let me tell in brief in the very beginning what all points will be discussed today. And that is, it is very wrong to think that God does not exist or there is no God. This is too much prevalent in the society today. And that is why this point will be discussed threadbare. It is wrong to think that there is no God or God does not exist. It is equally wrong or more wrong to think that none can see God. People very glibly ask, has anybody seen God? In this age, in Ramakrishna Vivekananda age, to ask this question is madness. So this point will come that it is very wrong to think that nobody can see God. Another point, it is also wrong to think that one should not accept God before seeing. Have you seen God? No. Then why do you say there is a God? As if we see everything before we accept it. There are more things that we do not see and accept than there are, and we accept. But there is an important point that it is meaningless to accept God only without trying to realize Him. That is another thing. It is useless to accept God without trying to experience Him, realize Him. Because experiential knowledge is only true knowledge. Real knowledge is never gained by seeing the effects in the gross world. Scientists talk of so many things, electrons and protons, and they do not even dream of seeing them. They only show their effects in the gross world and then say this is true. No. Real knowledge is always experiential knowledge. Another point, life has no meaning except by experiencing God. Life gets meaning only if we experience God, not otherwise. And then we come to the vital point. Swami Vivekananda asked Sri Ramakrishna in the very first meeting when he went to him, Sir, have you seen God? And remember, Sri Ramakrishna's reply was in 5 steps. Question is one, but Sri Ramakrishna is replying to the questioner's mind. Yes, I see him. He takes it out from the past and brings it to present. Have you seen God? He says, yes, I see him. But that may be an imagination. Second point, as directly as I see you. As directly as I see you. Third point, but this itself is not direct enough, we know. But 1,000 times brighter and clear than I see you. 1,000 is a figure representing infinity always. I see God as directly as I see you, but 1,000 times brighter and clearer than I see you. But who wants to see Him? People shed jar full of tears for their wives and money and children. Who weeps because he has not seen God? Now the fifth point, very important please, very important. Generally misreported also. Fifth point, Sri Ramakrishna said, if you do as I tell you, you will also see. People misrepresent, I will show you. No. If you do as I tell you, you will also see. So this is the conversation we will discuss. Next point, philosophy are analytical and philosophers or analyzers and sadhaks. There is a great difference. Logical intelligence has its own limitations, whereas meditation can lead a man to the direct knowledge. Another misunderstanding widely spread. Incapable people in the world only turn towards God. The general statement is totally wrong. We shall discuss that. Another thing, it is foolish to think that people go to God only in difficulty. That is another foolishness. Now, it is not right that somebody should show God. That is not right. But he should teach the right way so that sadhak himself can see. All these points will be discussed as we go on. And one more point, there can be many methods to see God. But there has to be a scientific method. So now, let us come to the talk proper. Now, as I said, there is a pervading delusion that nobody has ever seen God. And we glibly ask, nobody has seen, as if they take it as a universally accepted truth that nobody has seen God in this age. But Swamiji tells us, faith in religion comes only by certainty, definiteness, possibility of a direct experience of God. The possibility of direct experience of God only generates valid faith in religion. This point Swamiji has discussed at length. I am not going to quote scriptures and lines and pages, but I am telling you the source. In Swami Vivekananda's Rajoga preface introduction, he has discussed this point at great length. Now, come to Swami Vivekananda's personality. And many people have very wrong ideas. Some people say Swami Vivekananda was a Nastik and Swami Vivekananda was only interested in arguments, and Sri Ramakrishna turned his mind and Sri Ramakrishna touched him and showed him God. These are all erroneous ideas. So, another thing I will tell you, if you want the correct idea about Swami Vivekananda, go to Sri Ramakrishna Leela Prasanga. Sri Ramakrishna, the great master, Swami Sardananji, who intimately knew Vivekananda and Ramakrishna both, that is the only book I find which has depicted Swami Vivekananda correctly. Now, when Swami Vivekananda went to Sri Ramakrishna, what was his mental state? What was his mental state? I will read out to you that portion from the great master. Narendra did not then spend his time in the acquisition of knowledge and in learning music only, but engaged himself in observing perfect continence and in practicing severe austerity under the impulsion of a religious temper. A strict vegetarian, you have to understand this point, strict vegetarian, because traditionally Narendra's family were non-vegetarians. But under the impulse of spiritual life, brahmacharya, he had given up non-vegetarian diet for many days. That at the point of meeting Sri Ramakrishna, a strict vegetarian, he spent his nights lying on the bare ground or on a bed consisting of one blanket only. His mother's mother had a rented house near his ancestral one. He generally lived in a room on the first floor over the outer apartment of that house ever since he appeared for the entrance examination. Entrance means matriculation. When it was inconvenient to stay there for some reason or other, he hired a room near that house, lived separately, away from his relatives and family, and engaged himself in accomplishing his object, namely the realization of God. His large-hearted father and other members of the family thought that he was living separately only because he found it rather inconvenient to study or at home on account of various kinds of distractions and disorders arising from too many persons living together there. So this was the state of affairs. Now, what is Swami Vivekananda? Let us analyze his personality now. There are some 4 or 5 very special points in him. First, from his birth, he was adept in meditation. Sri Ramakrishna said that he is Dhyana Siddha. From his birth, he was adept in meditation. And he was addicted, you may say, to meditation, if addicted is the proper word. First point. Second point, he had a terrible rational faculty. He had a terrible rational faculty which Sri Ramakrishna has praised like anything by telling that day Narendranath cut that man's points into shreds. See how great a debater he is. Along with that, he had the knowledge which is given by this rational intelligence in a very great degree. Another speciality in him was that he had everything in him as positive, nothing negative. And you know, the great Nobel laureate of India, Ravi Thakur, has said that if you want to study India, study Vivekananda. In him, there is nothing negative, all positive. So that was his attitude. Now, what happened? The other sides. He was, like us, tremendously influenced by the Western education. And Western education tells him that everything can be attained by rational intelligence. And so his keenness to see God had taken that turn, though he was adept in meditation. But he wanted to know God through rational intelligence. That was the set of his mind. And then you will be surprised to know that the philosophers of those days, Mill, Spencer, etc. in England, while reading Spencer's book, this boy in the first year of college found some rational mistake according to Spencer's argument in Spencer's book. And he wrote to him, "Sir, there is a mistake in your page number so and so in such a book." And Spencer had to accept that and said that, yes, it has been an error. I will correct it in my next edition. That was his keenness. And what happened? He read all possible philosophies and came across the German philosopher Kant. I am describing Swami Vivekananda as a sadhak. So though he was adept in education, in the meditation, he thought that he can find God. That is the ultimate truth of this world by rational intelligence. And he came across the German philosopher Immanuel Kant. And Kant has rationally proved, so far as reason can prove, that we cannot know the real nature of anything of this world by reason. What to speak of God? Even a speck of dust we take, and we cannot know the real nature of that speck of dust by rational intelligence. Because our mind itself is made of space, time and causation. Our mind itself is made of space, time and causation. And therefore, when we try to know anything by our rational intelligence, we throw a network of space-time and causation on that object. And whatever is trapped within that web, that much we know. We cannot know what is the reality of the object, even a speck of dust, by this intelligence of ours. As soon as we try to know it through this intelligence, what happens? We throw our network of time, space and causation on that object. And whatever we catch in that network, that much we say is true, which is not true at all. We are not aware of the dimensions of that object at all. And so, by rational intelligence, we cannot know God. Now, what did Immanuel Kant do after that? There are two famous books written by him. The Critique of Pure Reason and the Critique of Practical Reason. That means he is an escapist. We cannot know God, so let us give it up. We cannot know the reality of things, so give it up. And let us see how we can live this life happily, blindly. Swami Vivekananda was not a person like that. Swami Vivekananda says, if I do not see God, the life is an ignorant, vegetating life. Trees also grow and they are cut off and thrown away. Like that man should live. Without knowing the reality of this, my own self, without knowing the reality of this world, blindly should I live? I don't want to live like that. Now his don't want to live is not negative. It is positive. That means I must know. And he has his own logic on that point. He gives an example. I feel hungry. That means it implies that there is food which I can eat. Otherwise, I would not have felt hungry for food. And also there is a mouth by which I can take the food in. Otherwise, the hunger is meaningless. Similarly, the very fact that I am yearning to realize God tells me that there is God. And there is a method by which that God can be realized. So, if this method has failed, which was a tremendous shock to him and tremendous disappointment to him because he was flowing in that rational intelligence all these days, then he had to turn back to the other means. His instinct told him that it is through meditation that I can know the truth, not through rational intelligence. But there another difficulty. As we saw, he was adept in meditation. And as a result of that, he was having several subtler experiences. He was having innumerable supersensuous experiences because of his meditation. But he was aware that is not the vision of God. I have not seen the origin of the world. I have not seen my own reality, though these are supersensuous experiences. And that had made him restless. I remember when I was in Chennai, we had a village school in Malayankarni, and the middle school boys had enacted a drama on Vivekananda. I remember in his own room, this Narendranath is walking to and fro and pulling at his hair. What was his idea? I jumped a little. That was his point of view when he first came to Sri Ramakrishna. And he was thinking, if this man also says, I have not seen God, where shall I go? But before that, something happened. He used to ask anybody, those especially who give discourses like me, Sir, have you seen God? And they would avoid his question by some methods. Now he heard that Devendranath Tagore, the father of Ravi Thakur, was a great sadhaka. He was living in a houseboat in Ganga, away from his family, for his sadhana and meditation. So Naren, in the company of his friends, went to him and put the same question to him. Sir, have you seen God? What he reply he gave? My boy, your eyes seem to be like that of a yogi. You should meditate. That much. He did not say, I have seen God. So, though disappointment on one side, but because of his respect for Devendranath, he paid more attention to meditation. But what of that? He is not seeing God. He could never become atheist. Never, never, never. But there is a thing called agnosticism. That is, nobody can see God. That was coming to him as a doubt, not as a philosophy. So his mind told him, somebody should I find who says that I have seen God. Then I shall also see. If a human being has seen God, I am a human being, I shall also see. No, there was a mistake in this thought. And that is due to the influence of the Western education. You see, Narendranath represents all of us. He has shown the way out to all of us. So our mental setup he also had. We are so much influenced by the Western education today that nonsensical thoughts have come to us. They could not come to Narendranath, but this thought that if some human being has seen, I will also see, has a flaw. And there when we come to Sri Ramakrishna's answer, we will find the validity of the fifth statement. If you do as I tell you, you will also see. What does it mean? It means you require a definite guidance on that line. You require a definite guidance on that line. You have been meditating from your childhood. You are having so many experiences and yet you are not able to see God. And if somebody has seen, I will also see, is rational in one way. But what happens? Suppose somebody has seen, but you are not able to see. So if somebody has seen, you must learn from him how he has seen. And if he tells you, this is the way in which I have seen, then you can practice that and get that. That is the real rationality. So Swami Vivekananda concludes and tells us afterwards, if somebody says, I believe, you should also believe, that is not the religion for me as a man, he says. If somebody says, so and so experienced, but I believe and you will also believe, that is not the way for me. If somebody says, I have experienced, but you believe, that also is not a way for me. As a human being, he has repeatedly said in many of his lectures that man does not live on words alone. But if somebody says, I experienced, this is the method by which I have experienced, and if you follow that method, you will also see, then I take it as a hypothetical truth. And I do not stop at that hypothetical truth. I start doing his method. Now here, one difficulty came Narendra's way. And that is again the Western education. All men are equal. And it was more influenced by the Brahma Samaji joint. They did not accept anybody as a guru. All men are equal. And if somebody has seen, I will also see. But we are struggling all these days. And so, For this, he had to struggle with Sri Ramakrishna. But the keenness of his struggle was tremendous. And through that philosophy, even before he reached Kant, he read Hamilton. And Hamilton says, the learned ignorance is the end of philosophy and the beginning of religion. That means you learn and learn and learn, and you are adding to your ignorance. And when you realize this, then you turn your attention to religion, that is experience direct. Now, this statement by Kant is well known in India, and the Vedanta calls it same, Desh Kal Nimitta, time, space, and causation. And they call it Maya. That is the mental makeup of every person. But there is something beyond that. Our being, our pranas do not accept defeat. And they want to cross this mind. If mind is not helpful, leave the mind behind. And in this we can understand what Sri Ramakrishna told him. Sri Ramakrishna told him, not only, it's not an idea or an imagination. I see him as directly I see you. Repeatedly Sri Ramakrishna is telling, we can talk to God, we can hear God, we can see God, we can touch God, we can smell God. But just now we have seen that this directness is no directness. Now if you take logic, logically we prove God is there or God is not there. That does not influence our life. Our life is influenced only by direct perception. To that extent, our life is not influenced by any indirect means of knowledge. Logic or upamana pramana or any praman does not influence our life as much as it is influenced by direct vision. That is everybody's experience. We may talk big philosophies, but our life remains unchanged. Now, how do we see things? By our mind and one of the organs of vision, whether eyes or ears or whatever. And every organ adds distortion into it. So this is, Kant said that this is not direct. This is very much indirect. So what we have to do? In Vedanta, the term is aparoksha anubhav. In English, we call it immediate knowledge. Immediate, not in the sense that no gap of time, but immediate in the sense of no mediacy. Let us take examples. There is an outside object. To see that, I use my eyes. Now, in my own mind, there is pleasure or pain or love or hate. For that, I do not require my eyes. My eyes cannot reach that, and they are not required also. My mind itself, I can read whether I am happy or miserable or whatever. Now, I want to know my own real nature. Mind also cannot go there. Many people will tell you, the agnostics will tell you, mind does not reach there, we cannot know. But mind does not reach there, mind is not required also. Man has his own inner light. And he can know his real nature by that inner light. Without the mediacy of indriyas and mind, that is real knowledge. And this Swami Vivekananda knew after studying Kant. And the Sri Ramakrishna knows right from his existence. And that is why Sri Ramakrishna told, I see him 1,000 times brighter and clearer than I see you. As I said, 1,000 is only a figure. It represents infinity. So God can be so directly, much more directly, not non-indirectly. That is aparokshānava. Not indirectly. That is the only term we apply. And this Naren could easily understand because he was struggling in that direction. And Sri Ramakrishna could understand Naren's hankering. And so he told them 5 steps. But this requires a yearning. And that Sri Ramakrishna said, but who wants to know? They weep jar full of tears for the loss of wife or son or property. But who weeps because he has not seen God? Now this was present in Narendra. There I represented, told you that he is scratching his head. If Sri Ramakrishna also says, I have not seen, what shall I do? Now where from he knew about Sri Ramakrishna first? Very strange phenomena. He heard about Sri Ramakrishna from his Christian principal, William Hasty, first of all. In those days, principal should walk into any classroom when that professor is absent. So one day, the teacher who was teaching them English literature was absent, and Principal Hasty entered that room and asked, what are you studying these days? They said, we are studying Wordsworth's Excursion. What is excursion? We take the children to see something which they have not seen. That is excursion. So the poet, through his imagination, sees many things which we have not seen. And that he describes and calls it excursion. So William Hasty explained that and said the poets sometimes have samadhi. And it is through that samadhi that they see these things. And he added, but these days, I do not see anybody having genuine samadhi. But if you want to know what is samadhi, you go to Dakshineshwar. Principal William Hasty is telling them. There we will see the Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, as he was called in those days. He had genuine samadhi. So that had impressed Swami Vivekananda. But it had not made him go there. Certain more things were to happen. His father was looking for a girl to marry Narendra. And one rich man, his daughter was slightly darker in shade. Not black, slightly less fair, slightly dark. And in a way to compensate or whatever you may say, he was ready to send Narendra to England and to study barrister in law. And so his father was inclined to marry. And Narendra was highly objecting. Why was objecting? He was just now read. He was a follower of strict continence. He did not want to marry. We are talking of Sadhak Vivekananda. So an essential part of him told him, don't marry. And his father and many people thought, because the girl is little dark, he does not want to marry. But there was a person, Ramchandra Datta, Sri Ramakrishna's disciple and devotee. He could understand that Narendra does not want to marry because of his religious hankering. And he knew Narendra goes to Brahma Samaj. So he told him, instead of wasting your energy in going to Brahma Samaj, come with me to Dakshineshwar. And there was another friend, Surendranath Mitra. So Surendranath Mitra had his own horse carriage. So both of them told Narendranath, come with us. And that day, Narendranath paid a visit along with one or two friends of his to Dakshineshwar. So what took him to Dakshineshwar? The idea was in his mind, Principal Vesti has told. And because of his keenness for religion, he was following strict continence where he had that. And so he agreed. Before that, when Sri Ramakrishna had gone to Surendranath or Ramchandra's house, for some musician in the neighborhood, they had called Narendra. And Narendra had sung some songs. And mutually, some attraction had grown, but not sufficient. So that day, Naren went to Sri Ramakrishna. And as he went, he asked him straight that question. Sir, have you seen God? And that we saw. The reply came in 5 steps. First, assurance and no past tense. I see God. Yes, I see God. And that it is not imagination. So, as I see Him as directly as I see you. And that we understood that Kant will come and tell this is not direct vision at all. And Sri Ramakrishna knew that Naren knows this. And Sri Ramakrishna knows it par excellence. So he says that, but I see him 1,000 times brighter and clearer than I see you. I told 1,000 is infinite. And then it requires yearning. So who sees? And that Naren had. Now the last point. Sri Ramakrishna said, if you do as I tell you, you will also see. Some of our friends sometimes have this experience in the Ramakrishna mission. Somebody phones and said, Sri Ramakrishna showed God to Vivekananda. Will you show to us? My friend said that neither we are Ramakrishna nor you are Vivekananda. I said, you should add one more thing. Vivekananda did not phone and take an appointment. He came there and asked his question. And that to understand, it took some time. But what happened? The way Sri Ramakrishna talked, Naren did not realize God that day. But he could very easily understand that Sri Ramakrishna has realized. By the manner of his talk, he could understand two things. He has given his everything to see God. He is a man of total renunciation. And that he has seen God, that he sees God. And then Sri Ramakrishna behaved in a queer way. Oh, you have come as Narayana and let me feed you. So Swami Vivekananda thought, I am the son of Vishwanath Datta. Is he a madman? But he saw in his behavior with other people not a trace of madness. So he concluded he is monomaniac, madness in one topic about me. But then, if somebody feels somebody is monomaniac, you will not go to him. Swami Vivekananda says, I must come to this man again and again and understand what he has seen and how he has seen. So that was his attraction. Now, a few years back, when I was in Chandigarh, I had gone to Jalandhar, invited by the Rotary of 3-4 states together. And thereafter my lecture, somebody says that, but God is not there, God is not to be seen, what you are talking. So that has become like a universally accepted fact. So you read in the Great Master, useless people only go to God. In this respect, let me tell, when there was a court case and Swami Vivekananda was arguing, the judge said that, my boy, if you had joined this profession, you would have become great. English judge. And that opposite attorney also was an Englishman. He said, yes, sir, he would have become great. And his principal, William H.T., has written, I have seen many bright boys in the world, different universities. I have not seen a brighter boy than Narendra. And Sri Ramakrishna himself is a great judge. He is telling that whichever field Narendra goes, he will have success there. And he repeatedly says, he is good in debate, he is good in this, he is good in that, and he is good in boxing and wrestling and many sports. And he is not praying for that. And yet he is Jitendriya. Sri Ramakrishna's praise is like this, and yet. That means the more talents we have, the more astray we go. But Narendranath has every talent, and yet he is Jitendriya. He has control over his indriyas. And from childhood, he wants to see God. So all these theories are thrown away. Of useless people, those who will not succeed in life. Swamiji has explained this in the Raj Yoga. In Jnana Yoga also he has said that we can know God if we transcend the limitations of our senses. And under Sri Ramakrishna's guidance, his meditation took the proper turn. And he did realize. Now, I touched a point just now. People go towards religion, the other people say they are escapist. Anybody thinking of God, people call them escapist. And there is no more perversion than this, I will tell you. Who are escapists? Kant is escapist. People who say we cannot see God, so let us enjoy the world are escapists. They are afraid to face the truth. And they try to close their eyes. This is escapism. And then I have some other friends, professors. They say that reason, that reason ends in the faith. He believes in some peer. Faith is only the beginning. Faith only, Swamiji says, when there is a distinct possibility that I will experience, then that faith has meaning. If anybody teaches me that if you have faith, if you follow my teachings, you will also see, then only that faith is necessary. Now read is, I am telling you the references only, not pages, numbers and lines. Swami Vivekananda has written an essay, Hinduism and Ramakrishna. There he tells us that unless we experience God, we are not religious at all. We are not stepped into the first step of religion unless we have super sensuous experience. And then another fact that he tells there. That does not require learning so many things. We have to remove our sanskara based upon individuality. Now the so-called rationals, how much they are addicted to their own reason, how much they are addicted to their own limited individuality, is that rationalism? Real reason makes a man broad. He is ready to accept. I remember my Guruji statement. The highest intelligence is that which understands the limitations of intelligence. Not my intelligence or your intelligence. The rational intelligence has its own limitations. It will work only on the data supplied by the five senses. Another misunderstanding. And they quote Swami Vivekananda for that. I have heard some of my friends talking that where religion has reached, science has almost reached. Science had not reached anywhere because science has its feet firmly in the mud or the ground. They don't know anything beyond the five senses. And what Swamiji has said about science in his lecture on Hinduism in Chicago, about Vedanta. The latest discoveries of modern science are like distant echoes of the truths discovered by Vedanta. Echoes, distant echoes. So that is only a reflection that only comes in our intellect, not in our experience. So where science has gone? Scientists can go. And Swamiji says science and religion can be reconciled. Both will have to have tremendous sacrifices. That also is. So science will have to give up his addiction to five senses. And religion will have to go superstitions which have grown over it by use of science. So that is Swami Vivekananda. And then this positivism of Swamiji. And that took him further. And he struggled with Sri Ramakrishna like any. He was interested in seeing things directly. And Sri Ramakrishna is really to show him everything. I would compare Swami Vivekananda with a big question mark. We are small question marks. And we suppress our questions. But all our questions are in Swami Vivekananda's mind. And he is not going to stop till he gets the answers. That is Sadhak. And Sri Ramakrishna has all the answers. So he studies him, struggles with him, loves him. Sri Ramakrishna loves him. And he goes on and on and on and gets all the answers from him and distributes to the world. That is Swami Vivekananda. But this is possible because of his sadhana. Now, one more important point. Very important point. Possible only in Sri Ramakrishna and Vivekananda. Let me tell you an anecdote. What you call allegory told by Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna talks that there is a man who colors clothes and he has a tub of color with him. And if you go and give your white cloth and you want it red, he dips in the tub and gives him red. Somebody wants blue, he dips in the same tub and gives him blue, yellow, green, whatever you want. And this young man, another young man is sitting near. So the man asks him, what color you want? He says, I want the color of your tub. And we jump and say, hey, this is the right man, he is Swami Vivekananda. But Sri Ramakrishna is the man who is giving that. What is the difference? To see God only in his Swarupa also is a limitation. And with the help of Sri Ramakrishna, Swami Vivekananda realized God in all the aspects. You know one story. When Sri Ramakrishna was in Kashipur, one night Narendra was circumambulating that building and chanting Ram, 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 like that. People thought that he is wanting to cure Sri Ramakrishna or something. They told Thakur that we are not able to catch him. Thakur said, physically catch him and bring to me. What was he doing? Sri Ramakrishna taught him Ram Mantra. And he had become mad for realizing Ram. And Thakur told him, this is nothing. My madness was much more. But you will get it. And we know that Swami Vivekananda's Ishta was Kali. So, as many ways in which God can be seen, one point. What I was going to tell is that if the person teaches me a method, I can follow. Sri Ramakrishna taught so many methods and Naren could follow. But it has to be a method. In that respect, I will tell my own experience of the world. In Rishikesh, in front of our Kutia Ganges, beyond Ganges one hill, you climb, come down another hill, there we have the Nilkantha temple. So instead of going by the long roads, I thought I will go by this road. People told me it is very difficult. There is a boatman who lives in that village, Nilkant village. So he will guide you. I went to him. He said, I will give some man with you. But no man was coming. I became eager. I said, you tell me the path I will go. Then he guided me. Like this you go. I thought this also is a zigzag path. I avoided the long path. But even this is so much increased because of zigzag. Why should I not go directly? So I went straight, some 10 or 15 steps, and lost the sense of direction. Everywhere the same trees. Then I heard some voices. So I thought there are some people on the proper road. So I raised my voice and said, "Where are you?" They also understood that somebody is lost. They said, "Come in the direction of our voice." And they started speaking loudly. So I could reach them. They asked me, "Where were you going, Mahatma Ji?" I did not want to tell them I was going to Nilkant. I said I was climbing the hill. महात्मा जी पहाड़ पर चढ़ने का भी एक रास्ता होता है. I will never forget that. You may not go by the long road. These days it has become more travel, 30 kilometers. The long road by foot is 20 kilometers. And this was 10 kilometers. But एक रास्ता होता है. So it has to be a definite method known to the teacher. And he has to guide. And this, when Swami Vivekananda realized, he came out successful, brilliantly. He got answers to all his questions and has given us that. So I thought on this holy and auspicious occasion, many people have talked on the 12th January about the outside of Swami Vivekananda. He was a great orator, yes. He was a great patriot, okay. He was a great poet, all right. He was a great debater, all right. He was a great musician, all right. He was expert in playing the pakwaj also, all right. And what he was not? Fencing, boxing, everything. That is his outside. We look upon these things only to see that he was all-sided, he could succeed in any direction, but his rational intelligence was supreme, and more supreme was his purity and his continence and his sadhana and his meditation. Now about the rational intelligence, nobody in the world could defeat him, that is what we know. But Sri Ramakrishna did defeat him once. In the respect of the people who believe in some form of God, Narendranath used the word blind faith. Sri Ramakrishna said, when you are using blind faith, it means that there is some faith with eyes. Faith is always blind. If it has eyes, we call it knowledge, not faith. And Swami Vivekananda said he thought and thought and thought and found that it has no meaning. And he gave up the use. And when he grew up, he has told us what is the meaning. What is the meaning? My faith is faith, your faith is blind faith. That is the only meaning. So, in a short span, I was just a rambling talk. But I think the points which I promised in the beginning, I have touched all those points. And so, let us pray to Swami Vivekananda, to Holy Mother which you saw just now, and to Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna, to awaken that hankering in us, awaken that yearning in us, and we should be ready to do anything for realizing God, then only we are sadhaks. Whatever good or bad we see, whatever path the teacher lays down for us, and if you promise us that you will see God at the end, and he has gone by that path, we can follow it. And so, on the auspicious occasion, You have heard now that beautiful song. I can disclose it here. It was by Swami Sarvagananji who was singing that song. And the lyrics you saw in Hindi so that you can understand that, those who do not know Bengali. And the meaning I told you is that in the great Saptarshi Mandal, Sri Ramakrishna said that 7 rishis are sitting. And the light there became a small child. That is Sri Ramakrishna himself. And he put his hands around the neck of one of the rishis and said, I am going there, you will also have to come. And he just assented by his movement of his neck. And those two have come to this earth because otherwise the world is getting drowned in Kamkanchan. So the Narayana of old, they have again come to redeem us. That is what the song said. I think enough for the day. Om Paratatve Sada Lino Ramakrishna Samagyaya Yo Dharma Sthapana Rato Viresham Tam Namamyaham. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.